Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm gonna call to order the September 11th, 2025 Lexington Planning Commission meeting. And the first or the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we need to make any adjustments? No, no. Okay, then I'll take a motion in a second.
I move we approve the agenda.
I second. Oh, go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and opposed, and the motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the August 28, 2025. Now I know that I had some suggested amendments to it. Does anybody else have any? Okay.
I had a little tiny one.
Okay, go for it. Go first.
Okay, mine was on the page 3. But it wasn't very clear, I didn't think. Under item number 2.
What are the first
Okay,
three
it says
words
under
of the line?
item number 2, he clarified that the light won't project too far and that people would enter the building under the sign, purposely accommodating this large multi-use building. That didn't really.
So what are the first 2 or 3 words of the line that you're on?
Like the fourth.
He
line,
clarified under item 2.
the fourth line.
We're on
Fourth.
page 3 of 4.
Yep, I'm on there.
Page 3 of 4.
And then she's in the second section and it's like the fourth line down.
There's
He
2
clarified.
separate page numbers, which got.
Second. Okay, gotcha. Second section. Gotcha. Clarified the light won't project too far. And do you just want it to be,
Yeah, that
it needs to be rewritten, you mean?
that wasn't.
Okay, let's look at it. He clarified that the light won't project too far and that people would enter the building under the sign, purposely accommodating this large multi-use building. I see what you mean. So
Identifying the use of this large museum, I don't know. But I'm not sure. I don't want to put words in somebody's mouth either. So
he described how the sign would be internally lit with a light source encased in the letterings, creating an outline effect. He clarified that the light won't project too far, period. How about that?
yeah. Okay.
And then we could say he also clarified that people would enter the building under the sign. I'm not quite sure why that actually needs to be in there. Purposefully accommodating this large, I almost think that we could leave that, the rest of that out.
Okay.
Purposely all the way to building to strike.
Thank you.
Actually starting with, and that people.
Oh, okay.
I think that was
Thank you.
good catch. Okay.
Just meant when we were talking about different doorways,
Yes.
but I think it's clear without.
Right. I think so too. Okay. And then I had a number of them. The first one is page 3 also. First paragraph, 10th line from the top. The word, so it says, the whole sentence is, wow, I'm going to just write, A Glacier noted the adjustment of the height from 20 feet to 15 feet for a canopy awning. I assume that was just supposed to be a canopy. Is that correct? Arnie?
That makes sense. Yes.
Since there is no such thing as a canopy awning. So I would like to strike the word awning. Same page, same paragraph. The line beginning the language to, it's sort of halfway down the page. So first line, paragraph beginning, the language to, and I'm suggesting changing what's in quotes to a flat roofed structure providing shade or shelter over a door, we did talk about this a lot. I listened to it in the minutes because I was like, I don't think that was quite it. And so that's
Okay.
okay. So that's okay. The next one is same page under the applicant statement section. The last sentence that says that S. Spencer requested to see an exact open face lit channel sign, letter sign of the gin that was made the same way as the AMC sign shown is not actually accurate at all. And again, I did listen to that. And so if I think it could be struck completely. Because I was talking about how what he was proposing was not like the AMC sign. And so it would be helpful to see something that was like what he was proposing, but that was where we were talking about, we could also just see what the Ramble looks like. So I think that we could probably just remove that entirely, or if we need to add something, I can, I have written here, S. Spencer suggested that planning commissioners might want to look for images of the Ramble sign lit up at night to get a better sense of what Mr. Benincasa is proposing, since this was his inspiration. I'm happy to put that in. I don't think it matters necessarily.
I'm striking it, but you did say about the Ramble sign, yeah, look at it separately, but.
So does anybody care? Adding, not adding?
Go ahead and add it.
Adding.
ahead
Okay,
and-
so add that one. The next one, so is page 4 under section D, the commission discussion, the second sentence. Jay Eastwood invited the commission to be flexible in their design and not to have excessive uniformity. So for clarity of what I believe you meant, I suggest changing that to Jay Eastwood noted the importance of flexibility in design and avoiding excessive uniformity.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then, so at the end, also in this paragraph, there was a whole part of the discussion that I found to be sort of very illuminating, that it didn't end up most of it in the minutes, and I would love to see them in the minutes. And I'm just going to read this in. There was discussion about the size of the sign and the need for proportionality with the size of the building. When asked if he would request larger letters for the sign if it were allowed, Mr. Benincasa indicated that he would do so. Commission discussed the role of Planning Commission versus ARB in deciding appropriateness of signage in the C1. I guess that should say district. A. Glacier clarified that the ARB must approve all misspelling, applications in C1, and offered to provide commissioners with the ARB's design guidelines for signs. He also advised Planning Commission to provide ARB with some guardrails on sign height. That's good. Okay. All right. So Arnie, if you can make those changes. I did write on here where it needs to, I made the correction on the typo that I made.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay. Do I have a second? Sorry, who seconded? Great. And all in favor
Aye.
and opposed? And motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to citizens' comments on matters that are not on the agenda. Is there anybody here who would like to make a comment on something that is not already on our agenda? And I'm looking up. Nobody's stepping up, so I'm going to close that section of the agenda and move on to new business. So ZOA 2025-03, a request by Francesco Benincasa to amend the zoning ordinance to allow internally illuminated canopy signs in the C1 and C2 zoning districts. Arnie, do we have a staff report?
Indeed. Good evening, everyone. As you know, this was deferred, postponed from your last meeting. This means the public hearing is still what we're discussing for tonight for a zoning text amendment, ZOA 2025-03 for internally illuminated canopy signs. I'm gonna go through the slight modification that you have in your staff report and then go over some other handouts that you have at your desk this evening, and then also cover one other thing. So what you have on page 7 of your overall packet is a revised photograph that I think the applicant handed in at the last meeting or maybe the time before. So previously we had seen this image of the sign that's being proposed on the canopy for the gin, but it was out of scale. It was the wrong size. So they have since provided a smaller version that's the 10 inches height that's being proposed. Other changes on page 9, as an example, we made the changes, or at least left in there, from the 20 feet going down to 15 feet for the height of the canopy. But the 10 inches, you'll notice, is highlighted in yellow simply because there was discussion about 10, 20, 24. So I just left that in as a placeholder for something that still needs to be decided. Page 11, the definition hasn't changed, and we are still waiting on additional information that the applicant actually provided just minutes before this meeting, and has one handout that we'll share. But I still don't think that it's quite sufficient for showing you exactly what type of channel letter, or for us to have much of a additional discussion about brightness, but we'll get to that. As far as photographs, Leslie mentioned to me that the sign heights or letter heights of some signs downtown might be helpful. So in one of your handouts, I hope I provided that to you. Sorry, you should have a photograph of the gas station canopy for the Farmers Co-op, as well as a sign or photograph for the Wells Fargo downtown. I guess I did not print that out. I don't
see it.
See that in my handouts. Apologies. The point there being the letters for if you wanted to go and take a walk downtown, the letters on the Wells Fargo sign are 10 inches in height. So that's a good comparison for what we're talking about. The letters that are on the gas station canopy on the Farmers Co-op, that little gas station that's right up front, those are 12 inches in height. And then the side letters for hotel on the canopy for the gin, there was that question. Those are 8 inches in height.
On the side, the ones that say. the
Sides that are
hotel.
remaining, just to give sort of a comparison for letter heights. If that's helpful, it's more helpful if you actually had the photograph.
But it's helpful to know as well. Thank
And
you.
then the other thing that we also realized when I was out looking at the Farmers Co-op is that we actually have canopies also in the Lexington restaurant. So on page 15, you'll actually see 2, one on the front and one on the side. We have not gone completely through our 2 C2 zoning districts to see where all the canopies are, and probably is something we should do, but just be aware that as this gets applied, it could also be applied to the old Lexington restaurant, which currently does not have a user in it.
It doesn't have what, Bernie?
A
Sorry.
user, it's
Yeah.
vacant.
Yeah.
And that is it for sort of changes or anything different. Also additional information, because I wasn't sure how much we'd have to discuss tonight. Frankie did provide earlier in the week. You do have that handout. So he did a mock-up of a number of, or I think 2 different sign sizes, and he'll explain that in a moment, what those are to represent. And I could not, the way it came in, I could not pull those apart. But I think that represents 2 different sign letter heights. And also something that Shannon had provided earlier was just some sign illumination standards. This is from Middleburg Heights, Ohio. Just as an example, I was later on this afternoon able to find something from Albemarle County. It was fairly detailed. Hadn't had time to go through that, but just trying to pull some standards for particularly about illumination, brightness, trying to understand what those actually mean. And then perhaps the last thing, just a little bit more clarification, just trying to get a better understanding what this type of open channel letter sign is. Now, the first one on the top is obviously just a sort of a blow up where we're showing the back with the illumination, whatever the illumination happens to be. This it looks like it's LED. Sometimes it can be neon, but more times it's LED just because it's cheaper and the newer thing. Then you see the channel letters themselves, and then you see the diffuser or the face.
Mhm.
You know, that's just overall construction. The bottom photograph on that first page is to show you more sort of the 3D depth of the letter. And it's a channel, and this one has a white light source, which I presume is LED, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But that is, I believe, the type of letter that is being requested on the next page. I thought Frankie had shown us something that had sort of two strips of illumination going around and not just one in the center. I was able to find something that I thought was similar, and then we'll show the submittal that Frankie has with him tonight. And then the bottom one is just to show you just a plain front or face lit channel letter that has that diffuser on the front. Just sort of make a distinction between open face and one that actually has a diffuser on the front of it. Happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
So will Frankie tell us what these different sizes are then? And then did you say you were looking at the Albemarle County? Yeah, and if you could check, I thought it was interesting on this Middleburg, Ohio, it was saying no bare bulbs. When you look at illumination, if you could look if it has any kind of specification for a diffuser or something like that as well.
Are you referring to letter E?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I understand that we don't want naked bulbs in the sense of individual light bulbs.
I'm just wondering what if they address that issue as stringently as this Middleburg Heights does, yeah. And do you know, Shannon, did you pull this together?
Okay, so honestly, this was 2 weeks ago, from 2 weeks ago. So I haven't looked at it for a while, but yes, I did. I just pulled this off the web.
Well, this is very helpful, but I was just wondering if you knew anything about the town. Is it like a
I don't.
historical town or?
I do
okay,
not.
just wondering.
Sorry. I was just looking
okay.
for sign illumination standards.
Yeah.
And in somewhere that I assumed was not like New York City, which which was the other place.
Right. No, I think it's helpful to
Yeah.
see something. And
Yep,
but
yep.
I was just wondering if you knew anything about the town.
No, unfortunately, I do not. Any other questions for Arnie? Okay, well, I have a question. And my question is about process. So these signs are, is our role here to say this kind of sign is okay? Is it to put this kind of sign into an illumination or a sign ordinance? Or, I mean, or because I sort of feel like this might be more like what the ARB is going to have to address, is whether this is an appropriate sign. So can you
Sure. What my hopes were is that Frankie would tell us he would want an open face channel letter with a specific type of illumination source in it at X lumens per letter per linear inch, whatever it ends up being. And that we at a certain height, no more than, and that we could put that into our standards for zoning.
Mhm.
And then when we provide a report, or when somebody comes in with an application, I make sure that it meets our zoning standards. So I would make sure that the letters are not more than 10 inches in height, if that's what you adopt, that it's an open face channel letter and not a front one or a backlit one, and then provide that to the ARB. And of course, color is another one of the issues that we have to sort of address. And then they would make the determination of, is that style, is the color, that we don't put a regulation on color. That's what they would do. So applicant has to know size, style, but we also heard last meeting from one of our ARB members that perhaps you don't be so prescriptive and
Right.
you allow a little bit. So that is an option. It's a little bit harder for me because I'm used to prescribing. That's what we do in the zoning ordinance. So if you do want to allow something in there that allows them, then you would say perhaps nothing on color at all. And they would have to determine if whatever the color that's being proposed is or isn't appropriate. Or if it's not just an open face channel letter, if all channel letters are appropriate. That's something that you could leave to them. I'm a little bit hesitant on that type of recommendation. First of all, this is the first type of sign that we're going to have like this. And typically what we've done is been more conservative with our rules and regulations. And then once we see one or two up, then we determine with a little bit of a review if we want to be a little bit less prescriptive on that particular type of sign. And then another sort of part to that, if I may,
Mhm.
the ARB is truly hesitant at times. If we say it can be 24 inches, they're going to allow a 24-inch sign pretty much all the time. So I'm a little bit hesitant in recommending that you go maybe from 10 inches all the way up to 24, thinking, well, the ARB will figure out how proportional it is per each individual building and application submittal. Because some of them, I believe, will see the 24-inch as something that we allow. Yes, they have the ability to say, no, that particular size is too big for that building. I think most of the time they are going to go ahead and allow that height. I'm not saying that's necessarily a reason to not allow that flexibility, but I just offer that as an observation.
That's actually very helpful. So, so it sounds like we need to set the maximum height that we would be comfortable with for any building. Is that,
Well, any building that has a canopy and any building
sure,
that
sure,
may
sure.
have a canopy, which isn't fair, but yes.
could we set the height based on the height of the building? You know, anything above 3 floors? How many floors do most buildings have in town? 3,
Two,
2?
3, and this one certainly has more.
Right. So maybe anything that has 2 to 3 could have up to 10 inches or up to 12 inches, and anything that is higher could be up to 20 inches.
Potentially.
Could we word it that way?
Yeah, I think you have the ability because we use other similar dimensional standards, maybe not so much floors, but if the
Height.
building has a certain amount of frontage, then it gets a larger sign as an example. So yeah, I think that's a precedent that's already been set.
Okay. Because certainly looking at the signs that were provided, and I know we're going to talk about these later, but these larger signs look much more normal, I guess. I don't know. There's something about the teeny tiny sign on this huge building that is a little bit unsettling somehow. So, okay, so we can write it that way. So we do not have to identify exactly the sign, the design of the sign. That's something that ARB will do. Is that correct?
Depends on your desire. for flexibility.
Architecturally,
I would
relevant.
recommend that you, if it's an open face channel letter for the first one, I would recommend you go ahead and say it has to be an open face channel letter. Now, as far as the font style and the color and the depth of the letter, the return, I mean, I think they could handle all of that. But as far as sort of guardrails or parameters, you can either just say channel letter, and any one of these channel letters, could be proposed, and then they could figure out which one's appropriate, or you just be more prescriptive and say it has to be open face. So I'll leave that to you all to determine how sort of prescriptive you want to be on your regulation.
Okay. I feel like that is going to be a hard thing for us because we do not have a single image of that kind of sign that he's talking about lit up. So I'm a little concerned about that for tonight. Unless he's brought, we'll come to that.
There is a handout that Frankie has.
That has a picture.
But they're small, and my worry is I would still like to see something sort of blown up and more specific on the proposed sign that
Yep.
they would
Okay.
like to have.
Okay, and then it sounds like we do not need to address color.
That's up to you.
Right, because, well, so,
I will
yeah.
offer this in council, if I remember correctly, specifically said white, that they weren't comfortable with the rainbow. They didn't say it that way, but they were, I heard a few voices say that they are much more comfortable with a white.
No, warm white, I believe.
A warm-
Also,
I heard warm white here, and I can't remember if I also heard warm white at council, but yes.
But,
And I
but
think-
you could make certainly the argument that other colors could work.
well, and relating to the sheet that you presented from Ohio, I think maybe we should consider flashing lights as well.
Yes.
Like that.
That would
needs to
not be
in
okay.
there. Like, not allowed.
That's already in,
It's already in there.
that's already in another section of prohibited sign types. Anything
Okay.
that flashes is not
Good.
allowed.
Excellent. Okay, so we can set the height, we could, if we chose to, set the height of the sign by the building height or floors. You're recommending that we choose open face, like say specifically what they're asking for as in the, I mean, put it into the ordinance. And then we can change it at a later date. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about this.
Correct. And the reason I'm a little bit more hedging towards an open face, because in my opinion, for what it's worth, this is a little bit, it's all modern, so I can't say modern, perhaps less flashy. And I would rather not see that downtown, because to me, that is completely suburban
Yes.
district sign.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for addressing those my concerns or questions. All right. Moving on to where's my agenda? Sorry. Okay, somewhere I have an agenda. Thank you. Okay, so applicant statement. Mr. Benincasa, would you like to come up and state your name and address for the record? And then we look forward to hearing from, thank you so much.
Chesco Benincasa, as you have it, Frankie, you can call me. And I live at 15 Farmington Court, Lexington, Virginia. And I have, first of all, I think what's happening is when I work with these sign people, they just think that like open face channel letters, faux neon mounted on a raceway, they think we know what that means. I'm trying to get the more specific,
Can you explain like I'm 5, please?
idea of what that means in regular terminology, but this is a mock-up they did of what the sign could be. I'm not actually crazy about this font, so that would probably change. And
Okay.
I think they did it with a blue background, and I don't think I'm into that either. But for what it's worth,
Okay,
if you guys would,
you want to bring it up and start down with Krista and thank you.
and so if we look,
Pull the mic up just a little closer, please.
Sure.
Yeah.
so if we look at, you guys
can
have this
slide
one?
there.
Yeah, it might, yeah, pull
Yeah,
forward.
go.
There you go.
All right. So I think the easiest way to do this is to open it up to, because it looks like on the left, what you're seeing is me and my father holding up a board that is, that's not even 10 inches, that's 12 inches.
Sorry, which
Are
page are you?
we on this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So on the
Okay,
left
middle one.
there, that's 12 by 67.
Sorry, which picture again are we talking about? The left one?
Page 2.
Page 2, yes, there we go.
Page
That's
2, which image?
all three of those are the same, just at different distances.
Okay.
And that's a how big?
That is 12 inches by 27
27 inches wide.
wide. Yeah. And on the other side, the sign board there is 20 inches by 67.
That's page 3, correct?
3, yes.
I'm sorry, 20 by 67?
7, they're the same length.
Sorry, you said 67 for the 12 inch by 67?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the page 3 is 20 inches tall by 67 wide.
Yeah. 67. That's okay.
So it's about 5.5 feet.
Thank you for getting out on that roof and doing that. This is very helpful, actually. It's, you know, it's just very, it's an iconic building we all know very well. And yet it's without that visual, it's just really hard to.
Scale's tricky.
Yes, scale is tricky. And do you have anything else that,
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Like I said, I hope to get more information with the lumens and, I mean, it seems like that's the sticking point right now, the lumens and getting specificity on the way each letter of the sign works in terms of, the channel lettering. I mean, I think the idea is to think of it as a recessed letter with a channel of like a neon going around the interior of it. So that lighting part is a little bit recessed into the letter, and I think that's where the channeling idea comes from. And
it would be up against the edge, is that correct?
it would be, yeah, towards the outside, so that at night you would see like a complete letter.
Not like the pizza.
Well, not I don't have that one.
So it would be more like around the
Not-
outside
not-
edge.
Well, this to me looks like it is around the outside edge, but it's on the interior. Okay, I understand. Yeah, this looks like it's on the interior of the lettering. This
Yes.
pizza.
Is that not what you mean?
That is, yeah.
That
Yeah,
is what
because
you
that's
mean.
what
That
this
is right,
shows.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's what this shows.
Yes.
too.
that idea.
'Cause this looks like it is inset,
Yeah, it's inset.
not just inside the letters, but inset from the edge
Yes.
of the metal.
Yeah.
And so is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about it would be along the outside, like
No, I'm
it
talking about
would
it would
be
be
the outside?
inset.
So it would be like if this is the letter. Yeah, leave that there. If the outside of my phone
Mhm.
is the outside of the letter.
Yeah.
The lighting would go around this dark part of
It would be,
the wallet.
yeah, in the interior of that. Like the letter is the casing. It's like the letter is the
Mhm.
box and the lighting is on the interior of the box.
I'm sorry, may I see that? So I guess because this is lit up, the letters on this image that
Mhm.
you presented.
Yeah.
They look like they're really good. I can't see where the metal
Yeah,
casing
and it's
would.
not showing depth,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and I think that's makes it difficult. But at night, because at night
Yeah,
it
at night
would
you
look
would.
like just a letter for the most part. Although you would still see it would cast a little shadow. It'd be a little more stylish than just having a rope light letter. 'Cause I think that little bit of a recessed effect gives it a slightly more old fashioned feel.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep. Okay, does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Acosta? Frankie? Okay, thank you so much. I'm sure we will be pulling you up again if we have any further questions. Thank you so much. Okay, and now I'll open the floor for public comment. If you would like to come up and make a comment on this. Nope. Okay, I'm going to close public comment and I'll open the commission discussion about this item. So, any thoughts on the difference between the 12-inch and the 20-inch signs?
Oh, I did have one question on, both those signs. Are they pretty close to the edge, front of the building then?
right at the edge,
Okay,
right in
great.
front.
Really? That's so funny. It looks, yeah.
I think given the scale of the gin, the 12 is too small, but perhaps maybe the 20 is a little too large somewhere. No.
So maybe
mean,
A
but
happy
to your-
medium?
Right, and to your point, I do, that, that hotel is one of the tallest in the downtown area, so I think giving a little leeway for a building so tall, and then also limiting the
Limiting the-
short and having that,
Right.
that scale would be a good consideration to have, I think.
Y-
The different
yes,
height
I-
buildings.
And I almost think that it, for the smaller buildings, maybe 10 inches is the right size.
Correct.
You know, sorry to do this. Can I ask Frankie one more question?
Come
So-
on, come on.
I meant to ask this before. So have you ever, for the Ramble Hotel that you showed, do you have any specification on those letters?
I don't know the exact specifications of
Okay.
the letters.
I was just wondering, because it is fairly small for,
Yeah, I
Uh,
believe that building was like a warehouse or
Yeah,
something like that
right.
originally.
but it looks good. The
Yes.
letters look good, and even if it's open channel, it's not gaudy because they're fairly small. But I was just wondering, is that 12 inches or?
And we've
20.
taken some inspiration from there in terms of the interior, because they're doing kind of a modern take on a Art Deco interior, which is kind of what we're been trying to put together with the with the building being from the 1920s and
Yeah.
and having some of those features.
Okay, I was just wondering if you knew the height of those letters. Thank you.
I'm wondering about the little pamphlet where the letters are. I mean, that shows
Sorry,
quite,
which one?
the
This
one you have in your hand there. Yeah, I mean, that's considerably, according to the drawing at the bottom, isn't that 80 inches?
It is. It's 86 inches wide.
So,
That's not a permanent thing. I don't, I actually don't. He sent that, I got that the other day and to be honest, I'm not crazy about the spacing. I think the letters are a little too far apart and the font doesn't quite work because if you notice the G at night looks like a C.
It does,
And,
yeah.
and so it needs work.
Yeah.
In terms to come to a completely finished, sign that would look good on the building. It needs a little bit of work. I don't like having them spread out that far. I think they're
Right.
trying to stretch out 6 letters too far.
Okay. And we could obviously set, and we would want to set, area
Area, which
limitation.
that'll really help because the
Yeah.
gin is only 6 letters.
Right.
Right.
You get a long name. You don't want 20-inch letters on that.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
So I don't even know. We have to so much base it on the height of the building, but just exactly what you said, the letter size and the total square area.
and is that
Ah,
something
right.
that ARB will vote on, or is that something we have to decide?
Well,
That's what's not clear.
You
to
mean
me
the
at all.
area?
Yeah.
The area would be a limitation that we would set. So we would set the limitation. We could set the height. We could set the height by the size, the floors or the height of the building if we chose to. And then ARB would be looking at the color or unless that was limited or the design.
If I could just offer
Yeah,
up
please.
for that portion of the C, so I'm on page 9, for the C1 zoning district area, and then we're coming across for canopy. Right now it says letters not more than 10 inches high and a sign area not more than 5 square feet. I would go with something similar to that. I think what I'm hearing is amending that in some way that it says for buildings up to 3 stories tall, letters not more than
Say 15.
15, yeah.
inches tall. And then it's also setting a maximum size for that. And then correspondingly for buildings more than 3 stories tall, letters up to,
Oh, sorry. So sorry, that is the, yeah.
so the other way around.
10
And if-
inches for the below 10, below 3 stories and 15 inches for above 3 stories.
And then something corresponding as far as overall square
Square
footage
footage.
maximum.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
maybe that's a way to sort of,
Mhm.
Or if we just put, maximum letters not more than 20 inches high and square area not more than 10 square feet, you're not going to get a sign bigger than the gin sign, but almost everywhere else is going to have more letters.
But you wouldn't necessarily have to, I mean, that would allow a sign for, let's say, a store is called,
Anthropology.
no, I'm thinking of a short name.
Right.
Oh,
Art.
Yeah.
So if your store's name was Art, then you could have 20 inches tall on a one-story building.
Right, as long as it doesn't exceed the roof height or the
Right.
eaves of the roof.
Right.
So you're limited by that too.
Right. And I think that that would start looking odd. That's why I'm thinking that we would want to have a limit, the smaller letters for a shorter building. That's my thinking. Thank you, thank you, Frankie. Okay, so where do we stand on the two different height limitations based on height of the building?
I believe the having a set limit for up to 3 stories and then another limit for above 3 stories, that gives something to work with. That gives people something to work with when they
Okay.
first come.
I know. Not too many.
No, but Cornerstone Bank is, I think, 4 stories, right?
No, I think it's
Guess
3.
without really knowing for sure.
It is 3, yeah.
I guess somebody could come in and build something possible.
The reason I put 3 is I think everything's 2.5 to 3. And then this one may be the only one that's over that.
And I think that might be exactly the point, is that this is the only really big building, and it just seems like having a really tiny sign on a really big building just doesn't quite visually work. And it also, it addresses the having an ordinance that sort of works across the board when in fact this one building is the first one that's going to happen. But then having the limitation that this is not going to, we don't have to roll it back right away because we've already built in that shorter limit. That's seems like an elegant solution that will save us time in the future. Any further thoughts? Is anybody opposed? I know, Leslie, you sound like you're not.
It's fine with me.
Okay.
I think it's reasonable. It's easier for me to imagine, to think about that than like the ratios that we were talking
Yeah.
about last time. I'm still inclined towards allowing some degree of flexibility and trusting ARB to administer within that, but I think we could split the different strategy where we're putting some height limits like we're talking about. There's flexibility underneath that. Seems reasonable, especially if we're concerned, as Arnie has suggested, that at some point in the future, maybe ARB wouldn't feel empowered to actually impose restrictions, but just not, dropping the limits down so much that we're going to inadvertently produce through our constraints the sort of uniformity that Caroline was introducing in public comment last time. But some version of the strategy you're proposing here sounds to me like it could work for that.
So do you have a different proposal than 15 and 10?
Not really, because I'm still having a little bit of a hard time really envisioning what those numbers are. I mean, 15 and 10 is fine. Maybe 10's a little small for the upper bound for those. Maybe it's 12. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there. I
Right.
took,
So this is 12. This image is 12 and this is 20.
right.
I'm good with 12 is the
12,
smaller, right?
12 and 16.
Something like that.
And do we know, is there a standard the sizes
that's
for
a
these
good question.
signs, or
Good question.
can you get them however you want?
Custom built.
Okay.
Okay. So 12 and 16.
Sounds like a good starting point.
Okay. 12 for less than 3 stories, is that right? Or no?
Buildings up to 3 stories.
Up to 3
tall. Letters can be up to 12 inches in height.
Mhm.
And above 3 stories. Okay. Okay, so that addresses the
Where that
height.
Area would be next.
Yes,
But height.
area. So, okay, so
Can I make
area.
one comment before we
Yeah,
switch
of
to area.
course.
So just to put it in perspective, so we're going from downtown, where right now you can only have 6 inches unlit on the awning, to 12 to 16 lit on top of the canopy. Just to kind of put the change in perspective. I'm okay with that, but it is a pretty big change.
So then maybe we want to back down on that 12 inches.
I think if we're gonna allow it, I'm okay with it. I'm just trying to.
Well, so as you said before, though, it's better to start out more restrictive and than to pull it back.
Yeah,
So-
but I don't think, because it sits on top, I don't know if you can see it, if it's any, if we stuck with something smaller, whereas on the canopy, on the awning face or canopy face, it is right there. And what'd you say, the hotel itself, that is 8 inches, and that's not obtrusive,
Mm.
but also something to keep in mind when we start talking about C2 as well.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so so we're sticking with 12 and 16? Or do we want to go to 10 and 16?
I'm okay with 12.
Okay, 12 and 16 it is. Okay, so area, Arnie, how do you calculate area? Is it,
I'm a simple person. One shape on it, one shape only. So sometimes people argue with me if it's cursive and it's got the drop down I'm not
no,
measuring that.
no, it's this,
One shape,
Right,
whatever the
yeah.
simplest shape is that fits on
Yep,
top of it.
exactly. Okay, so given that, okay, so a 16-inch sign, this is actually quite helpful. This tells us that it's 67 inches. Who's got a calculator? I do. So I'm doing 20 by 67 is okay. And then how do you do that math? How do I get square feet
144.
out of, is it divided by 144? Divided by a gross. That would be 9.3 square feet. I'm just doing that for the pictures that we are looking at, just to give us a sense of what 9.3 square feet is. Okay, and then I'm gonna do 12 by 67. Divided by gross. And this other one is it's 5.6 square feet. And what do we allow now?
Just the letter height, not an area.
Do we have a letter height? I mean, sorry, do we have an area?
We don't, because this is canopy signs, so this is new. So if you're asking me, do we have something existing already in?
Yeah, for others, I'm just looking
Or for other types?
for
No,
other
it's-
types of signs. So
well-
we've got 9 square feet for projecting signs. Wall signs are 15.
The only place that we have in letter height is in the balance for an awning sign, which is 6-inch letters.
And there's no square footage for that.
Right.
So it can run the entire length of the awning, but this is going to be lit. So, all right, I'm going to do the same measurement at 16 inches by 67 and just see what that looks like. 16 times 67. So that would be about 7.5 square feet. So if we were looking at a
Say 10 feet.
right, I mean, would
10
that
feet.
be reasonable? Too much? Anybody else?
It's quite reasonable.
Okay,
Yeah.
10 feet. 10 square feet.
For the smaller one.
Um,
For any of
for
them.
any of them.
Okay, both.
Mhm.
About 10, 7.5, with the smaller size.
Yeah,
7.5 for the smaller.
Yeah.
because the
It's
10 would be
proportionate.
pretty long if it
Yeah.
was, yeah, 10.
Fair enough.
Sorry, 12
s-
and 16, 7.5 and 10.
Correct.
I get, okay.
7.5 square feet. Okay.
We'll put that in as a placeholder and if we
Yeah.
want to get
Beautiful.
more information.
Yeah.
Then we can adjust again.
Good.
Okay, so now we can move on to the open faced versus uh backlit, open faced, or yeah, backlit. So what you're, I hear what you're saying. I agree that the ramen sign is not what we're hoping to have downtown. Is there anybody who loves having this kind of ramen sign?
No, but more like the A though, you know, it all comes down to what the style is of your font.
Which we are not gonna be picking up, I don't think, right?
Right, and that's what we're kind of relying on the ARB to make sure that it's appropriate. Because I could see this type of made sign be fine, depending what the outside color of your rim was and what the font style is, rather than more like this neon one.
Leslie, you
But-
mean the one with the diffuser,
Yeah, right, right.
the green A?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I'm kind of grasping with is it would really help to to see something. And looking at the Ramble sign, I can't see it clear enough. My son's in Denver. I feel like meant to tell him to go downtown and take a picture of it at night.
You know, I looked for signs online and it was hard to see it the way that the photographs, they were all sort of very grainy.
Yes, right.
So it was hard to tell. So I think to Arnie's point, my sense is that we should limit it to the open. Because if we end up, because this will look a little bit more period, I think, than this will. I think this, even no matter what the font is, I think that's going to look less sort of the period that our architecture is than this. I just don't see how it could possibly with the
You know, in the first gen picture that Frankie gave us,
set in here.
I don't think it's in this packet. But it should be on the sheet that Mary Stewart had that had the
This one
new
right here, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Does that have both, the old one
No.
and the new one? Oh, okay,
No.
okay.
This is a day and a night.
Okay, just because I thought, trying to envision what that would actually look like, the original one, to me, sort of looked like it had a diffuser over it. It's just the clear, stylish letters that
Yeah.
showed up plainly.
So what if we put that sort of as a backup plan and say, you can do this? You can have these, and then if somebody comes to us and says, I really want
Yeah,
these, you know, if
right,
I
right.
want a covered sign, then we could, you know,
Yeah. It means saying either open face channel.
open face
with the
channel it.
User on top or
Open,
not.
I would say without a diffuser. No, that's what I would go for, just in part because Arnie is recommending it and in part because I agree with him. That I think that, I mean, even this pizza sign has a little bit more of an antique look than the A does.
Yeah.
Pizza.
I don't have strong feelings about it, and I definitely see your point and Arnie's. Also kind of seeing what I think is your point as well, and kind of going back to the discussion from last week. Again, not to constantly be talking about the uniformity issue, but if we say they all have to have exactly this style of lighting, you know, then what if 4 or 5 of them do proliferate and they don't all necessarily kind of go with the architectural story of each of those spaces, right? And it has this kind of corporate look where it's like these buildings that are all different, that are part of the fabric of the downtown. They have this kind of uniform signage that looks like some centralized builder built it, But on the other hand, I definitely don't want a sign that looks like the one that you're describing there. So I see both sides of this. And to me, again, it seems like the question is, do we feel confident just like letting ARB make those determinations on style grounds and giving a little more wiggle room so that there could be a little bit more variability of form here? Am I speaking to your point or is that, yeah.
Yes, everything you said makes sense. Yeah, right.
But I don't have strong feelings about it. I just wonder if that isn't perhaps true,
So, yeah, so there is a ramble sign on page 7. And I think that if both of these are purporting to be channel lit signs, they're quite different. And I think that would get away. I mean, I think it's all about the font.
True.
It is all about the font.
And then also about the color.
Which I think Arnie's point from the council discussion. And then I mentioned to a few people, Caroline's comments about flexibility. I don't think we're going to I think whatever we pass, council's going to set it back to warm white. I could be wrong, so we could go, but if we end up spending a lot of time on color, I would say maybe hold off.
Or maybe we just don't address it.
Yeah, right.
One other thing just to throw in, because I was going to wait until we got to color, but there's a lot of design flexibility in the font style. And the thing that I hadn't thought up to just now is the sign that we have for the Wells Fargo. They're individual, not internally or externally illuminated, I think, letters that are on the building, but they're these channel letters and they have that depth. While they're white on the face, they're red on the returns. So there's other ways to bring in color, even if you end up specifying warm white or just the color source that comes out. There's still a lot of style or elements. There's a lot of design elements that folks can still play with to differentiate for each building.
Right. And my guess is that any business owner is going to want to differentiate. They're not going to want to have a sign that looks just like all the other signs in town. So, so we may not need to worry too much, I hope, about that.
Well, and to your point, like this ramble sign looks like it's gold, maybe
Yeah.
with some black trim with a white light on
Right.
the inside.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So where does that leave us? So we've covered height. We've covered area. Are we sticking with open faced and holding off on the diffuser?
I think I put the choice in, allow either. And to John's point, it could be based on the overall design and that is something ARB can decide. Because what were the other? The other was backlit.
I
And
didn't bring that with me, but yes, we have the front lit, we have the backlit, we have the combination front lit, backlit,
Oh, okay.
and then we had open
yeah,
face.
So you're suggesting that we leave that up to the ARB?
Not entirely, I hope.
right. If we pick any that we think are possibilities, if we don't like the backlit look pretty modern, but then maybe it could look right somewhere. But I would be fine with having both the diffuser and the open face.
All right, Charlie, you look like you've got things on your mind.
Yeah.
I have a lot of things on my mind.
All right, pull your mic up so it'll be heard on the recording.
I don't really know how far to go into it though, because I'm in the minority. I'm not comfortable with this style of sign really at all.
When you say this style of sign,
I
Do you-
mean,
internally lit?
internally lit canopy mounted signs.
Okay.
But there are some things that mitigate against my fears. John pointed out, for example, that they should be appropriate, or you suggested that they ought to be appropriate to the building and to the style of the building.
Can you pull that closer?
And if you look at the existing canopies in the town, they're all on 20th century structures. And perhaps, except for perhaps the Dutch Inn, but I think that that's really a different kind of overhanging structure. That's really more of a porch roof
Yeah.
than it is canopy. So, and I don't think the ARB would allow us, would allow the owner of a really historic structure, a 19th or for heaven's sakes, an 18th or 16th structure to have a canopy. I doubt they would. So that mitigates against my concerns somewhat.
Okay.
So if we're going to allow these, then I think our size proportions make sense. Color and to Caroline's points from last time, there's certain, obviously she makes good points, really well-made points, well articulated, very compelling, very compelling. But I still wonder, I mean, do we want, to your point, Mary Stewart, from several times ago, when we first talked about this, we don't want downtown Lexington to look like a carnival. So I'm kind of inclined to go with the white light. And with us, I suppose the open face makes a better statement for me, but I can see an open face that would look really inappropriate too.
Absolutely.
But I would trust the ARB to distinguish between what's appropriate and not appropriate for our town, in spite of their conservative limitations. I'm not sure whether to say this or not.
Go ahead.
Well, at the first meeting we had on this sign type, I said, I questioned, Frankie wasn't here, I don't think. I think he had a representative here, and I questioned about where this sign would be read from and what the purpose of the sign was. And he said, as Frankie has said, that it was all about folks on the street and folks on the sidewalk noting where his structure was located. And I said, well, the only place you're going to be able to read the sign from is across the street. All these pictures are taken from across the street. But I do see why. I mean, you want to show the scale of the building, and you can't get that from being underneath of it. But I still wonder if the sign is really going to be visible from the sidewalk, or from the street. And recessing the lighting within the letter makes that even more difficult. And Frankie has, I think, suggested that's what you kind of want this not to bleed. You want this to be forward, more or less forward facing, and be in conversation with the Southern End sign, which is going to work with your recessed lighting, but that may be the only conversation that the sign really has. So those are my thoughts and my concerns.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared your thoughts and concerns. And
I have just a little, it's not going to summarize. I don't believe what Charlie has just said, but I have an issue also with, the real value of that sign there. But again, that's not my job. We're sort of making the decision, correct me if I'm wrong. Are we making the decision so that if anybody puts this forward, now we have guidelines? Is that what that's what we're working on?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's, whether it applies to the gin or another structure, then that's what we've been charged to do, I guess.
That's correct. And I mean, it is always possible, we've done this before, to make a recommendation that council not approve the zoning change. But if they do, that these are the things that they these are the changes that we would recommend if they choose to go ahead with it against our recommendation. So that is another approach. We have taken that before on other issues. And we could do that again. So, so there's more than one option here. That's sort of a, I don't know.
It's a lot of work.
What do you
No,
mean?
no, well, I'm just saying this is a lot of time and effort for us to come up with a, an ordinance, change. And I guess we have to do it though.
But you can do it just like Shannon said. I mean, we did the last one like that.
Last one was mini warehouses,
I
I
remember what
believe.
it was. It was many
Yeah.
warehouses. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Slightly different, if I may.
Yeah, please.
Mini warehouse you provide or preferred there not be any, but in case they did want to go forward with all the nice use and design standards laid out, this is a little bit different than ARB and Planning Commission really recommended against it. Council said, we really want them. So in your motion, ultimately, you could say, while we still prefer that there not be any, and then move forward that way. But
Yeah.
we have gotten specific direction from council that
Right.
these will be allowed, and they're just asking for some more detail to be proposed with this type of sign. If you want to just keep that in
So
mind.
can we say we would still recommend against this?
It's your motion, yes.
However, if
In light of the direction.
in light of the direction.
Provided.
Okay. So, and that would just be a motion made by someone, seconded, and then voted on, and it might or might not pass that vote. And that's the way we work, right?
Arnie, can I ask you, if if there was a canopy sign and it was either lit with lights shining on it, either down or up to it, would that be allowed, or we still don't allow a sign on top of the canopy?
That's a good question. So what we're working on now, and I'm looking on page 9.
Page
So what
9.
we are doing is a canopy sign as we've defined it. And let me make sure that it doesn't. Sign placed directly on it. So the definition doesn't have anything about lighting, so we don't have to worry about that. I think that if somebody just wanted to put letters up that were not internally illuminated, but externally illuminated, that they could.
I was wondering.
Externally illuminated. So you could have lights shining up on that sign. Is that correct? Is that
Up or down.
up or down?
Since the canopy would probably be down, be my guess, just because of the canopy that it's sitting on. So could they on their balcony not have an internally illuminated individual channel letters, but just channel letters, 3D letters, and then have them illuminated from the top somehow? I think they could.
Right now.
Because you allow that for wall sign, we can do that with wall sign. I'm
Well, I would say that with our addition of canopy and the sizes that we're going to allow, that we could.
yeah. I just wondering, just just to kind of get a baseline where we're at. And then in our what we have right now, do we say anything that the name of the sign has to be on the, this is to Charlie's point, on the front of the building, parallel with the road? I'm just wondering
Yeah.
because Charlie's comment, and then the southern end sign is
Right.
is perpendicular to the road. And then it was interesting looking at the co-op sign. Same thing. They have their name written on their canopy, the gas station canopy, but it is on the side. It's not on the front.
So you can read it from the
Yeah,
road.
I'm just wondering if somebody came to us with a different request to have it on the side, does that change anything we're talking about, or?
I would say no, simply because the graphic that we have has canopy and the letters are facing towards the front. It doesn't in my mind, provide you the flexibility to put them on the side of the canopy so that you can see it sort of as you're approaching. at
That one
an
shows
angle.
it on the side.
Yeah,
This
that's
one
what-
over here shows it on the side.
But that's
Oh,
the
you're
one we're
right.
getting rid of.
Oh,
If you go to page
Okay.
11,
So we do have the drawings. That's right. Okay, just wondering.
oh.
now somebody, if I made that determination, somebody could argue that and we'd be in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals because that's their job, but my determination would be no, that it wasn't intended to be on side of the canopy.
Yeah.
And a good example of that might be, um, on page 15, just for fun, I guess. The Lexington restaurant, we both have the canopy that's towards the front of the building and we have that little side canopy. So you would almost think that somebody on the side canopy would sort of want to orient the sign towards South Main Street instead of towards what ends up being internally to the parking lot. So, but I would say no, based on our definition and our graphic, that you would have to orient it to away from the building, if that makes sense. And not perpendicular to the building. Mary Jo, one other thing, if I could, guidelines, we also have additional guidelines for signage. I don't have those memorized in the historic district guidelines book that we provide that link right at the end of the last meeting.
Yes.
Provide that. So there's in addition to what we have for zoning standards, we also have guidelines in that design guidelines booklet specific to signs. So there's a little bit more for the ARB to go
Right.
by.
And they do talk about architecturally, being architecturally relevant and, yeah, those sign guidelines were helpful and I meant to print them out. I read them.
I still think we're on the right track. I mean, I think we're in a good place. I think it's all about the font style that'll
Yeah.
really make a difference.
And to your question about whether, if somebody came with the perpendicular sign request for an internally lit sign, I think that we would have to limit that much more by size because I mean, if you think about the size of on some of these the downtown signs that you have all these pictures of, they're quite small. And I think that would be, like whatever it is, like 3 feet or something. That would end up being what we would be limiting to. It would be tiny.
Yeah. Or we could maybe set a standard for if it was internal to the canopy, it can be lit. Like if that hotel sign were lit, I think that would be a great asset to the building and would look fine. We might just add that as another allowance is that you could have it on.
Let's
You
look
can
at
have
our
a
other
lighted sign within
canopies.
the canopy on either any side.
So I'm looking at other canopies. So in other words, I'm looking at the State Theater. They could have an internally lit sign there. And certainly on the State Theater, I'm just looking at that building. If they had a sign that was facing the opposite side of the street, I don't think most people would be able to see it.
Yeah, right. So if they had one on their side that said theater, I think that would be appropriate
Yeah.
if it's internal to the.
So can we, I know this is a little bit of a different thing, but could we write in that if it is internal to the structure of the canopy, that is, which is, I assume, limited by height? That would also,
Just so that I'm understanding, when you say internal to the canopy, similar to what the hotel
Yes.
letters are.
Yeah, right.
currently?
exactly.
In the canopy, I don't know how you say that properly, but.
And we're gonna have to do a whole different section for that potentially.
And I would say you could either have one or the other.
But we'd have to work through that. They have it, obviously, it's not a problem, it's non-conforming, that's fine. If you're talking about adding that to others, one, structurally, that's gonna be difficult. Nico's, I can't see enough here for it to be, an internal part of the structure, because I think most of these canopies are sort of flat things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one that you're talking about, the State Theater, it does seem to be some sort of thickness, so perhaps there is that ability. But I'm also just wondering if we're overcomplicating
Maybe so.
for
be.
what we are working on now.
That's fine. If nobody's asking for it. Wait till they ask.
Stop
for
it, Leslie.
Sorry. Sorry. I do have, well, I don't want to get too far off, but still on C1,
Yeah.
on our canopy sign definition. Well, so on page 11, on the canopy sign, I thought we were going to take off a canopy sign cannot be attached to an awning, marquee.
Yeah.
True.
Yep.
And you know what? On the vehicle fueling station, after looking at the co-op sign, I'm okay with it if it has it on it, but not a lit sign. And Sheets, same thing. They're in C2. They have a sign on their canopy, but it's not a lit sign. I don't know. I would be okay with allowing the gas station fueling station canopy as long as it's actually on the canopy and not lit.
And not lit. I
Something to
don't
think
have that
about.
in my head. I don't,
Yeah, you can look when you get a chance. It's
Yeah.
just something to think about.
and is that something that we need to
We would have to write a little sentence.
figure out? So, okay, Arnie, where are we? What else do you need us to do at this point? We still have to figure out whether we are suggesting or recommending channel signs that are open or open lit channel signs or open lit or with the diffuser.
The type of channel letter, yes.
Okay.
Color.
I think we've sort of recognized, I mean, you said that it's going to go back to white and
Yeah. At least for C1.
for C1, right? So I'm not sure that we need to deal with color. But I think we've got different feelings about the diffuser. About, so whether we recommend a diffuser, I know you're sort of pro diffuser, or at least having the option. I think you were too.
Yeah.
Where are you all on diffusers? Diffusers are
I
these.
suppose if we're gonna allow this sort of signage anyway, I would be pro diffuser. Because I think it could look good. I like Frankie's point that he's trying to get a classy look to this sign. And I think that he's doing that with this non-diffuser
Yeah.
sign, but I can imagine a diffuser sign that would look good too.
So that's 3. So
I,
do you have a,
I just, it seems like there are multitude of options, so
okay. All right. So it sounds like maybe we are not going to, we're going to say channel lit signs with or without a diffuser.
And then for C2, can we make that just a specification in C1 and not in C2 and allow anything in C2? And that's basically what we allow now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now what else do we need?
Because we're still with an advertised public hearing, if Frankie is able to provide us with a more specific detail from the sign company by, say, no later than next Wednesday, which is the 17th, for us to be able to do whatever research we're going to need to do on lumens, brightness, and maybe even a little bit more on the type of channel letter, depending on what the exact proposal is. We need to have that packet together by the 19th for your meeting on the 25th. So that doesn't provide much time. So it's a short window, but if we could maybe get an idea from Frankie, if he cannot make that, then we just go ahead and schedule this not for your next meeting, but for 2 meetings from now. And the reason I like for the deferral or postponement to be to a date certain is that I do not lose my advertising. So I don't have to spend another $60 or $80 on an ad. We've already spent a number of
Yeah. Yep.
for this particular item.
Absolutely. And do we have to wait or could we not just set the lumens and so forth?
I was thinking that we would be sort of reactionary to what the proposal is, thinking that depending on sort of what range we're talking about, we could do a little bit of research. But as an example, on the thing that I didn't print out, for what it's worth, as I was buying light bulbs last week, I realized that for GE LED bulbs that are 40 watts, they had a lumen rating of 450. 60 watts had a lumen rating of 800, and 100-watt bulbs had a lumen rating of somewhere around 1200 or 1300, if I
Mhm.
remember correctly. So if you're sort of comfortable with what a 60-watt bulb puts out for each one of these letters, you could do something like that.
I would, I mean, so last time we had a little bit more information on on the amounts of lumens and the warmth of light. But I would say that it would be great not to be reactive so much, but to actually be thinking ahead and choosing what we want as opposed to saying, well, what does he want?
This is a field I'm also not comfortable in.
Yeah,
setting
yeah, yeah, I understand that. I mean,
Foot candles and
yeah,
lumens.
right, right.
There's a lot to it, as you provided, and I printed one out, but not for everybody. This nits versus lumens versus
Oh, yeah, the
luminescence.
nits are they're,
And
yeah.
that's like the technical thing that really, but we could visit that if you like. But just generally speaking, if you want to go off of what a 60-watt bulb, and if you think that's somewhat sufficient for each of these letters, I think you could put a lumen rating on that of somewhere between 600 or 800.
600 to 800 lumens. Is that the standard, like for this kind of lighting? Is that what you're hearing about lumens? Sorry,
I believe it'd be measured in lumens.
it would be measured in lumens.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I
you
know
don't have
there-
any
there was-
idea, you don't have any idea what they are proposing for your sign.
He did not
Yes,
include
yeah,
that
okay.
information, unfortunately.
When the revision, when you ask again, if you could get that bit of information, that would be lovely.
Or you could just tell them that this is what you need.
Possible.
I think that I mean, you know, he can, that'll probably help them actually to be able, since it's designed for you, you can tell them the size and the brightness. The Kelvin wasn't one of the measurements, Kelvin.
Color.
Kelvin
for-
is a warmth.
Yeah.
Kelvin is the quality
Cold.
of the color.
Right, right. And we
brightness.
had a recommendation for Kelvin. Was it from the
Did Caroline mention Kelvin, like 2700
Yes.
degrees is warmth?
Yeah.
or
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that was right.
Like,
So we could sort of say those two measurements, if you would confirm that 2700 is in fact warm, though, maybe 2400, I'm not sure.
pretty sure that.
And then do we know anything about any of these signs that are in C2? And about the lumens, about how,
And honestly, we haven't been regulating them before, so I don't know that I'd worry about it.
Right.
much.
so I think that I mean, one thing about light is that in the dark, it travels, you know, even a single candle you can see from quite a distance. So I think if we had, you know, if you wanted to go with your range of 600 to 800 lumens and 2700 Kelvin, and at least we could use those as placeholders until you can sort of check on that. Arnie?
So how
Would that-
about up to 800 lumens per letter?
Yes.
Did we have at one point a report from Public Works, or was somebody going to get one to tell us what the streetlights put out, or is that just all over the board?
1,300 lumens is what I'm remembering that came back, and that's on page 6.
Thank you.
Is there's a little table there of heights of canopy in the first line below that. We did hear back from Scott Dameron that they are about 1,300 lumens.
Thank you.
I can put those two things in certainly as
Okay.
placeholders. And then I think the outstanding question still is when would you like to defer this to the next meeting? Which means that the sign company has to get something back by the middle of next week at the latest.
Okay, and this is where I'm wondering about how important is it for us to see exactly what they're doing? As opposed
I'm
to,
still
we're
not-
creating a sign ordinance here.
I'm still not terribly clear, so just to make sure, one, I think we're in the ballpark of what we approve or we've been talking about, what gets approved will fit. But also wouldn't like all of a sudden there to be something that we haven't thought of that they want, and then, because we haven't seen the final, that we adopt something that they can't meet or don't, their preferred design cannot.
So this is still in the design process, right? They're not making it for you yet. Sorry,
It's still in the design process. Obviously, I need to know
right.
my
So
parameters before I can have it.
So if we put these parameters together and then say, go make a sign, they can do it to these specs.
I would hope so.
So I guess I'm not entirely clear on why we would need Frankie to come back. Why we would need to reschedule this. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? I mean, which is to say, as opposed to saying, you know what, we've got this and ARB is going to also have a crack at it. We're comfortable with these restrictions. So tell me, I'm just not sure why we have to have another meeting.
I was just, again, trying to make sure that what is that ends up being the final design can be met through this. It sounds like Frankie has a lot of flexibility. So if he's comfortable with what he hears, I think you can go forward. My one little clarification, you said it's going to go back to the ARB. Not for changes to this code that we're proposing. Each sign will go to the ARB once the code is adopted.
Mhm.
But the ARB is not getting another crack at this
Yeah.
from a review standpoint of the language.
Understood.
Okay.
I guess I'm not feeling a pressure to get this done until Frankie's, closer to making it happen. So I'd be fine if we waited till October 9th or 2 meetings from now, maybe. I mean, I see your point, and I think we are probably on the right track, but I would also feel more comfortable waiting, making sure that we're including all the specifications or.
He certainly had sorry, I'm interrupting.
No,
you.
it's fine.
Finished. I was just thinking that you can certainly just defer to the next meeting. Proceed as you like, even if Frankie doesn't have the final design, because you can always defer it again. So you have flexibility on how you want to move forward. I was just thinking that we needed the final, but if you're comfortable moving forward without that, we can certainly do that.
So, I mean, my feeling about planning is that you plan to the specifications that you want, and then people who are making applications look at the specifications that you want, and they design their signs accordingly. Rather than us sort of saying, oh, we have all these things, but if you come back to us with something different that's not met, then we're going to change everything to, that's not quite.
I would argue a little bit in the sense
Yeah.
that we're only doing this because of the sign that they want.
Sure.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be going through this. And I'm certainly a lot more comfortable with setbacks, heights, other things that we have dealt with before. Lumens and nits and other things is a little bit sort of unintuitive to me.
I think your point is a very good one. I do entirely agree but I think I still don't feel like I know what 800 lumens is where I'm at. Like I think your point is 100% spot on. Like we're we should figure out the numbers that we think are the right numbers. The reason I'd love to hear that info from Frankie's, the person you're working with, is because it might help me get a better read on just what those numbers mean personally.
Okay.
But I think your point is spot on. I agree entirely.
Frankie's person is going to be the professional.
Yeah.
And if we go to him, if Frankie goes to him and says, we want 800 lumens, and the guy says, that's not possible,
Yeah.
it won't work. Well, what are we going to do?
Fair enough. That's fair enough. Okay, so you have enough to go back to your guy and say, or your people, sorry,
Yeah.
and say, they're thinking this.
Yes. And so specifically, we need to know the lumens. That's the primary thing.
Lumens and the Kelvin,
And what the yeah, what the
assuming that,
possibilities are.
yes,
For that. Okay.
exactly. And I would say with regards to the Kelvin, that we're assuming that we're sticking with white. I think that's a fair, right, based on what we're hearing. So, we would want a warm white.
Okay.
Maybe even a very warm white.
Some of those, if you buy LED bulbs, you can actually adjust the bulbs
Yeah.
for the different color
You can get them
temperatures.
to change colors.
So if you could just make sure, not colors, just the warmth. So if you could just make sure with your guys that they can get to 2700 K on that for the warm white light.
Okay.
I will just throw out, if you could get a drawing, a mock-up of the font and all that, I think the more information you can provide, it'd be a better to sell all of Planning Commission on whether this is a good idea or not.
Yeah, that is certainly true. Yeah.
That's right. I think it'll be easier to get obviously he should just be able to give me a number on lumens and stuff like that. And hopefully we can get something better with fonts and stuff. I am also very picky on fonts. That's part of the back and forth with his design people and stuff, because
Right.
I don't want a bad font.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you don't want a font that makes it sound like your hotel's name is the Sin.
Listen. In the chin. I don't know. It was- But yeah, that's the first thing
Which this one does.
that's the first thing I saw. I was like, oh, well, that G doesn't work. So yeah.
It's like, what does that stand for? The cinnamon? The the cinder? Who knows? Okay, so you've got your homework and you'll come back. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
So Arnie, you need a motion to is that what we're looking for?
For a motion to a date certain.
Okay, to a date certain. So and is 2 weeks from now enough? Do you want a month from now?
What do you have
I
coming up?
mean,
Do we
Ra-
have something coming up?
We'll have whatever we get for the comp plan from Jeremy at the CSPDC. So I'm guessing we're going to have a chapter or two. Other than that, we do not have any other land use applications.
So that's for 2 weeks from now.
There's no
about-
master plan amendment coming up soon? Okay,
No,
okay,
we will be, I'll get to that in a minute.
okay.
So Frankie is 2 weeks or no, you needed things for next
Middle of next week.
week. So next Wednesday, does that work for you? I mean, I think there's
Yeah.
no rush.
I would at least be able to get the lumen information. I don't think I would be able to get like a whole new design put together because they seem to run slow on that.
Well, let's push it back then. Let's
Yeah,
put it
I
for
think
4 weeks
October
from
9th
today.
would be our next meeting.
October 9th, there's the 9th and then whatever the one after that. I mean, there's not a rush. Is that,
Right.
so I would almost suggest that, I mean, although do we have a timeline?
We have a soft,
100 days, right?
yes, council had preferred that it come back in a certain amount of time, but we're working on it. We've been working on it, I think, diligently for 3 meetings now. So I'm guessing that it won't be a problem, stretching it out, but I would defer.
It won't be a problem. We're working with the applicant.
Yeah. Okay, and if we need to postpone it longer and that requires something from council, I assume that you'll make that happen.
Yes, right. Yeah. And then I did bring up the date with the mayor, and he said, I said it's just a goal. So
Okay.
I think we're all good.
I love that. Okay, so I'm sorry, Arnie, do you still want a date firm, or what did you say, a date certain?
I would like a date certain because that way I do not lose my advertisement and will not have to spend money on another ad.
So if a date certain in like the second meeting in October,
As you wish.
23rd.
23rd?
I move, we postpone to a date certain October 23rd meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. Okay, so you have until the week before October 23rd. Yeah, you bet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay, so moving on, other business. Do you have a zoning? And actually, before we move on, I just wanted to, is there anything else on, I'm looking at this Middleburg Heights zoning code for sign illumination standard. Is there anything else from here that we want to include? So we've got no flashing lights. This is use of glaring, unshielded, or undiffused lights or bulbs. Okay, so we wouldn't want to prohibit undiffused lights because we're specifically talking about allowing them. But
Where are you, Shannon?
glaring,
Where are you?
I'm sorry, I'm on C.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Lights shall be shielded so as not to project onto adjoining properties or roadways. I mean, this almost sounds like,
Commercial district.
well, it almost sounds like it's not commercial. It's residential, but although you wouldn't really have this in. I mean, I guess one thing to think about is whether, if there were people living above the southern end, for example,
Mm.
would having, and that's a reason to have pretty low lighting in these signs, is if people are living on that second floor and these lights are coming right in their windows. But do we want to say that they have to be shielded so they're not projecting onto adjoining properties or properties across the street?
I don't know how you do that without just covering the sign completely, then it's useless. So I don't really know how you accomplish that.
Yeah, yep. Traffic hazard sign illumination that could distract motorists or otherwise create a traffic hazard shall be prohibited.
We already have that in.
Okay.
That's pretty standard language for most signs.
And bare bulb illumination or flames. So we allow both of those. Is that correct?
I don't remember anything about bare bulbs. I'd have to go back and take a look, but I don't think we have that prohibition.
And flames, it must, doesn't the patent room have flames outside in their lights? I think they do.
Just have a light though, but not, it's part of a sign.
Right. Right. Intensity, all signs and sign lighting shall not exceed 1/2 foot candles at a height of 5 feet. Wow. So this is what I see. I get what you're talking about. This is, it doesn't,
What does that mean?
I know.
right, we don't know what that means.
Also-
LEDs.
Residential, which is not what we're talking about as well. Just
Right.
point that out.
LED signs. An LED sign must be located at least 250 feet away from the nearest residential land or residential zoning district. If
That
it's
is a different type of sign, though. It says LED signs, but it says electronic changeable copy signs that
which we
use
don't allow,
LEDs.
we allow those.
We don't allow those. The one, as an example of one of those, and you probably already know plenty of these, but the one that's in front of Cameron Hall,
Yes.
not part of our zoning area, that's a changeable copy
Yeah. Okay.
sign.
Okay. How about one using a liquid crystal? Oh, well, LCD. Is that what that one is?
It's
I would
same
guess
thing,
it's
the copy.
LED and not
Not
LCD.
Okay. But those are still not allowed downtown. correct.
Yeah, that's funny because I'm not sure. I know that we don't allow changeable copies, so I think it would be applied to both because we haven't specifically said anything about LCD, but I have to go back and read to make sure that our prohibition against changeable copy would definitely be both of those.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
it just says that you can't have message signs, I thought.
So will you confirm? Let's just make sure, and if it's not in there, LED or LCD, maybe worth adding that.
I wouldn't add it. I think it's the complete ban on electric message signs. I would just leave it as is
Oh, is it?
in our ordinance.
Okay. So it doesn't but if it just says LED,
Yeah, right. They want both.
then you'd want both.
We have prohibited signs and there's a longer list, but flashing signs, moving or rotating signs, and then one that says electronic message boards.
Beautiful.
That's what these are. So
Okay. Okay. It looks like we don't need this. Thank you very much. Sorry for the distraction. Last time I said that I would bring back my definitions of canopies versus marquees. So you have provided us with a perfect example of the difference between what these other areas, how they define a canopy versus a marquee, and that is at the Lexington restaurant. So a canopy is the one that's on the side that has posts that hold it up, and a marquee is the one that doesn't. So what we have been talking about referring to as canopies.
Oh, I thought a marquee was like the movie theater sign.
It
It-
is. It's just that it's also what's in front of the gym. Here's a,
I would use our canopy to be both, but you know what? Because it's funny because Arnie just sent around the ARB, the design guidelines, and it has
and it has
marquee,
marquees
but
in
it
it.
is it is the movie theater marquee, which yeah, right.
Right.
I don't know.
So this defines, so this is San Francisco Planning Department. They define marquees as a permanent roofed structure attached to and supported entirely by a building, including any object or decoration attached to, with the purpose of providing protection from sun and rain or embellishment of the facade. And a canopy is defined as a roof-like structure supported by the exterior wall of a building and on columns or wholly on columns.
Oh.
so it's only about structure.
And that's pretty much what everything I found said. So, which is, I don't know, I'm not necessarily suggesting that we change, but it was interesting to me that marquees were referred to in the ARB guidelines.
I think of a marquee, and maybe this is what Leslie was talking about. It's the sign where you put the letters on for a movie theater. That to me is a marquee, not just depending on how it's supported by a post or by.
I'm just telling you I think it's the architectural definitions of those two things. A canopy is like, it just has legs.
So then for our adjustment, what we need to do, just change our definition to say it also can have legs.
No, I think we have pictures, and we're not going to use the word marquee anywhere.
I would say we might want to remove the word marquee from the design, the ARB design, because they are using marquee.
But they have a picture, and
But a marquee is not just a movie theater. It's a kind of structure.
but I think well, I have to go back and look. I thought they were referring to a specific thing that has letters on it, but I could be wrong.
Still not quite understanding
Yeah,
why
that's
we need to make the distinction.
I'm
Just because it's a definition that other people have, and the way we've defined canopy, I think accomplishes the goals that we need for canopy signs.
and the reason it came up is because we had referred to marquees in different places. And so we just need to stick to one. So if we're going to call it a canopy, then we should only call it a canopy.
And I'm not going to recommend that we go and change the design
Yeah,
guidelines because
yeah,
they're just
yep.
guidelines.
Yep,
And
yep.
if we say what it is in the zoning, then that's what it is.
Right. And there was somewhere, even just today, we were talking about marquees. Here it is on page 11. A canopy sign cannot be attached to an awning, marquee, vehicle fueling station, et cetera. So that marquee needs to come out.
Yeah, I think that was pointed out that we had not removed that already.
Yeah. So anyway, I brought it up because I said that I would bring it back up, and there we did it. Okay. Okay, zoning and planning report.
The survey for the comp plan is still available. We have a QR code on our website. And then the second item is, and this might take a little bit from Leslie's city council report, but WNL did provide a presentation to council about the next round, if you will, of about 4 or 5 capital projects. So then the question was, would we want them to do that for planning commission prior to them coming in with a specific request? And I think the answer to that is yes. So we will work with them to schedule something for a presentation in front of you. Just to quickly update, their next project is going to be the early fielding building, the removal of that and come in with Founders Hall. Founders Hall is a larger building. They asked for additional height up to 50 feet. Specifically, that's what was approved. So that's okay. They, unfortunately for them, put in a 34-foot setback from Washington Street. They wanted to now change that to 21 feet, if I remember correctly. So that will require an amendment to their campus master plan. And that will come in next. But before they come in with that, I would like for them to sort of apprise you and the public of what their next round of master plan amendments, but capital projects in particular. So in addition to Founders Hall, there's the Institutional History Museum. There's some housing that's being proposed, not for the entire senior class, just for about 100 to 170 students, if I remember correctly. And on the last campus master plan, there were already 2 places as placeholders on the back campus for that. They're thinking about one of those. And there's one other thing that I'm forgetting. Or at least 4. I can't remember
Is-
what.
Is I know obviously early fielding is on Lee and Washington. But what about is the institutional history, is that also there? I know because they had come and talked about having something sort of across the street and then maybe into that parking lot that's internal to between Jefferson and Lee.
That was not approved as
Right.
part of the campus master plan by council. So they have since moved and are planning design drawings, having those done. And they're already out if you've ever read the columns. So there was an
Yeah.
article a few months back. So where, and I cannot remember, is it Founders Gate or the Corral, that area off of Jefferson?
Yeah.
So when you come around the split and
Mhm.
past Letcher, that entire parking lot,
Mhm.
in part of that parking lot running up the hill is their newer location for the Institutional History Museum.
And then the parking lot there is going to,
And they're talking about decking it, potentially not, but they have some expansion in another area also proposed. So these are the types of things that they would want to present and get some feedback on.
wow.
There's one other one that I'm not remembering. Shoot. There's one other one.
Okay.
Was it Wilson Hall? Was there something?
Oh, yeah,
That's what it
thank you.
was, yeah.
It was. Yeah, also not approved at the last round was an expansion of Wilson Hall towards McLaughlin. They have now found some space on the back side of the building to add an addition onto the back side of Wilson Hall. So again, it won't be street side, it will be creek side.
So that would be encroaching on Woods Creek then.
Is, as I recall the sketch, it is in the floodplain part of the building would be.
Yeah.
But you
Okay.
can build in floodplain if you build to certain.
And they would be talking, they would be talking about all of these.
That's the hope that they would give the same presentation that they did to council, which are those 4 projects. And they got a little bit, almost a separate one of its own is parking. Parking for Founders Hall, parking for the Institutional History Museum. I'm not sure specifically parking for Wilson Hall, but so it's how do they bring parking along, or is that a separate thing? So you could almost consider that 4.5 projects.
Okay. All right. Do you have any idea when that will be scheduled?
We'll try not to do it. We'll try to do it after October 9th.
That would be lovely. I appreciate that.
There's no particular hurry for this, so just we'll try to schedule with them.
Okay. Great. Thank you. City council report.
Thank you, Arnie. That was, we did have a meeting, but the meeting was pretty short. It was the work session that probably had more planning related items.
Okay. All right, great. So at our end, take a motion and a second.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried again. Thanks, everybody.
You.